Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Julie Calloway, the Vice President of Product Management for Customs Content at Descartes Systems. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we want to share with you a couple of new approaches we have available for multinational organizations to help you better manage your classifications in an environment with constantly changing tariff codes. But before we start, I want to mention that today's web seminar will be recorded. Following this event, we will send a copy of the slides as well as the recording. You can ask questions anytime by using the Q&A box to type your question. But since time is limited today, we want to also send you a question and answer document following the web seminar. Joining me today is Martin Meacock, our Director of Product Management for Customs Compliance and Global Trade Content Solutions. Martin brings to us years of experience of international trade and customs and regulatory compliance. He's worked for over 10 years in the UK in customs before joining Descartes Systems a couple years ago during the acquisition of eCustoms. So I'd like to pass the presentation to Martin to help us get started.
Thanks, Jolie. Welcome, everybody. It's great to be here. First of all, just for those that maybe are not familiar with the Customs Info product, the Customs Info Manager product is actually a cloud-based product. It's used to help people classify products efficiently and effectively as a store for all their product data and compliance data. We'll see some of that a little bit later. Primarily, the users are anyone dealing multinationally with the need to classify products across borders. That could be companies themselves, brokers acting on companies' behalf, or compliance staff. And as somebody who's worked in that industry for a number of years, is a tool that I just wish I had for many years, helping me classify products, a single point of research, data repository, and an audit trail. So what we found when we've gone to the market and got feedback from the customers is that where the customers have got a very strategic need, a very complex issue, then it's worked very well. The product is highly customizable, configurable, and it helps companies really classify products, on average 4 to 10 times faster than they would do if they were trying to do it manually. But what we found was that didn't necessarily suit everybody, having such a complex product. So what we've looked to do is spin out a couple of extra products linked to the main Customs Info solution. So the main solution, the fully customized option, is still there, available for everybody, and we've continued to invest in that heavily and make further improvements in that process. But as well as the fully customized one, we're looking at a more standard approach, something that's quicker out of the box, that companies can get up and running fairly quickly. Maybe doesn't have all the business automation or the integrations with ERP systems, but can really help the medium-sized businesses, even bigger businesses, in the same way as a fully customized solution. The other solution we're looking to roll out is one where companies maybe don't need that data repository. They don't need the workflow, but they have got a lot of classifications in various countries, and they need to keep up to date as to whether those codes are valid or not. So in that product, we've got the HS Validation tool, which would allow people to upload their data, monitor any changes, export that data back into their systems as they need to. So we'll focus quite a bit on that one as we go forward. Hopefully that gives you an overview of where we are, and I'll hand back to Jolie to give you some more detail.
Great, thank you, Martin. Yes, as Martin said, we have created a couple of new standalone tools to help companies who are dealing with specific challenges and really don't mind going into more of a regimented process to make it faster and easier for you to get your solutions in place. So this first tool that Martin mentioned, as he said, it's a new standalone product. It's called the HS Validator, or Tariff Validation System. It's a very simple system that allows you to load and normalize your item and tariff data, scan it in real time against either the WCO 6-digit codes or against your specific country tariff codes based on whatever your country tariff needs are. And it continues to monitor this on an ongoing basis. So what we're going to do today is, again, give you a conceptual overview of what these tools do show you some of the interface that is taking place. And of course, we want to receive any questions that you have so that we can come back to you on those. So just briefly, the HS Validator, let me move this forward. It enables organizations to easily upload your current products and tariff codes. The system tests validity against the codes and marks the invalid classifications for review. And this is something that we see over and over in the marketplace, where organizations may be looking at year-end changes to the tariff codes throughout the year. You may even be looking for a way to clean up your database prior to loading it into other systems, and just making sure that all your codes are staying up to date and you're working with a good table. It provides the ability to view and update the invalid classifications, which can then be easily exported. It provides the ongoing checks, as I mentioned. Each time the relevant country updates their tariff, all the current valid classifications will be rechecked. Notifications appear on a dashboard, which I'll show you in a moment, to indicate the specific items and the count of those items that need updated for each country. It enables reclassification of groups of products at once, which is a highly efficient process, so that you aren't having to go through one by one. If you have a large number of items that need updated, you can review your reclassifications, but you can also update all of that information in bulk. It enables collaboration within your organization, meaning you can have full visibility and access within your own user group, but you can also provide information and view-only rights to people outside your organization. So you can collaborate inside as well as outside, such as maybe using a broker to view your items. It includes an HS mismatch report. And when we talk about a mismatch report, specifically this is geared for companies that are classifying in a lot of different countries. And it gives you rapid visibility to see if your first 6 digits of your WCO codes are in sync with one another. We know that there are those anomalies that take place where sometimes the first 6 digits don't belong together or they are not in sync. But more often than not, if those first 6 digits are not in alignment, you need to be alerted to that to make sure that you make those corrections and double check all of that work. So that report is in there. The tool is available on an annual subscription basis. So again, we were trying to get something out into everybody's hands that is more of a simplified process. You know exactly what your annual spend is going to be based on your number of items and number of countries that are out there, or approximate number of items and the number of countries that you need integrated. This doesn't look like it actually advanced quite right. Bear with me just one moment. There we go. Let's see, so why the HS Validator? We were reviewing some of the annual statistics of tariff codes that change around the globe, and I just thought it would be beneficial to share with you some of these statistics. As you can see in this chart, even in the non-WCO reform years, there are a lot of code changes that take place throughout the year. The chart shows in 2016, that's the gray highlighted numbers, that's 2016. That's a non-reform year. So for example, in Switzerland, there were over 825 codes that changed during 2016. In China, over 2,900. The European Union had over 1,200 code changes. And in the US, we had over 2,000 code changes. Some of that may be bumping into the 2017 reform year, but it's a lot of code changes. And most of you know that this can be really overwhelming to try and maintain and keep your supply chain moving globally. The HS Validator is a very quick setup. It can be set up, your team can be trained, and we can have the system live in as little as 3 to 5 days. And again, it's on an annual subscription basis. So let me show you just a couple of screens from the Validator. Once your items are loaded into the HS Validator, the system does an initial review of the existing codes, as we mentioned. It produces a summary which can be seen on this dashboard here. And if you see where my arrows are pointing, This is just a small sample set, but you can see the column indicating the number of affected codes and the number of the affected items by country. In an actual company data set, this may look much larger, such as 200 tariff codes and 10,000 items affected, etc. The user is able to drill down through the links or through the workflow process to start the reclassification process. This is one example of the workflow, although there's multiple ways to go through and do your reclassification, again, depending on your volume and the number of items impacted by each tariff code. So this left-hand panel shows the data that you loaded into the system, and this would include the item number or item key, the item description, the ISO country code, the tariff code, and date. Reclassification can be done in this rapid mapping tool, which shows the options of how to reclassify the invalid codes. So in this example, if you can see in the middle, we've got China showing up here. Once your code is brought into here, you can quickly see the newly linked in or synced in tariff codes for that section. And if you're doing these one by one, you can click on the correct code that you want to use. It auto-populates, the green check mark shows up, and you know that that's a live valid code. Anything that's showing the red X is, of course, still invalid, and you can quickly click through here. If you have a larger number of items that fall within the HS code, it can also be done from more of a grid type view for mass classification, which allows you to upload a large number of items at one time. Once you're finished with this, you can simply export the data and leave the system, or you can leave all your data in the system for continuous monitoring throughout the year. I also want to mention that we do support over 172 country tariffs in our library. So it's up to you on how many countries you want brought into the system. Some companies have 1 or 2 that they want to maintain, some have 10 to 20, and some are really loading very large numbers of countries into the system. So that's completely up to you. Now, if you need a more robust classification or compliance solution, as Martin mentioned, we also have the CI Manager standard. We're releasing this new simplistic option. That, it's a lot simpler than what we have provided historically, if you are familiar with the CI Manager, or what I would call classic right now. So let's talk about that for a moment. So the CI Manager standard, or Quick Start, is an item compliance tool to help you with your initial or full classification decisions. It stores documents, notes, houses duty rates, preferential rates. It can link in regulatory requirements and more. With this new standardized Quick Start approach, we have utilized the best practices that we've learned throughout the years of working with many, many clients and set up the standardized workflow process. Again, you can import data through an import wizard, and it utilizes the standardized item master table. It also has the ability to attach support documentation. It allows for mass updates across multiple items, collaboration tools for both internal and external users, which I mentioned earlier. That may be your own team, it may be giving visibility to your brokerage firm, etc. It also includes the HS Validator or Revalidator, which we just went through. It has a standard template for exporting. It also includes standard reports and productivity reports. It allows you to search Descartes customs info related data and information so that you can get all the information that you need to make classification decisions. It has duty rates, including preferential rates. Embedded within the system is an electronic comprehensive user guide, so you can always get to the information quickly without having to always contact support if you have some quick questions. It does provide support for both sets and kits, follows the workflow that we've already talked about. And again, in this tool, you have the ability to select which country tariff information is meaningful to your organization. So this is an example of inside the CI Manager, the standard solution. So as you can see, it looks similar to the HS Validator. However, it enables more research, functionality, and workflows from initial classification review and research through the tariff mapping, export control, regulations, company-specific related data can also be linked in. And you can see the tabs across the top, which go through the whole workflow process. In this example, we're showing ECCN data. That would be equivalent to the EU dual use data or dual use for other parts of the globe. These tabs would change depending on which country information you're bringing in. Also within the system, it has full activity tracking so that you can monitor exactly what takes place when. In North America, we would call that tracking for reasonable care, but around the globe, all governments are really enforcing how you are classifying and making decisions. You can also change the language, as you can see here, depending on what your requirements are and where your compliance professionals are working. We do maintain both the local language as well as English. For the European Union specifically, we have 14 languages available and languages available throughout the globe for other countries. This screen simply shows where I can review and select the appropriate duty rates and trade agreements for future reference. So again, this is not a transactional system, it's an item compliance system. So as you go through here, you're going to have references to a lot of different pieces of information. You can select the general duty rate. If you know you're shipping into areas of the globe that have free trade agreements and you want to tag those into your records for future reference, you can quickly grab those and tag them. The CI Manager, it is designed for those organizations who can operate in a more structured environment and leverage best practices built by your peers and as well as our team. I'm sure that there are a lot of questions in your mind regarding pricing and setup. The tool is available on an annual subscription flat rate basis. There is an onboarding fee for the first year, but ongoing it's a set rate depending on specifically how many countries you need to integrated into the system. Structured integration guidelines are provided so that it's a quicker setup. And there are a handful of data elements that are left open to your own organization because we know that there are going to be some situations where there are a few different field changes or specific data or information that need linked into the system. There is a short set of configuration sessions that are required initially, and then we like to hold training sessions, and then we also like to go through final testing to make sure that everything is working prior to go live. But all in all, it's a quicker setup because of the structure that we have in place and best practices. Lastly, I do want to note that if your organization requires more complex or customized compliance processes, as Martin mentioned in the beginning, we do still have the classic CI Manager, which is scoped out and configured specifically to meet your organization's needs. So we have not taken that away. What we wanted to do was add more flexibility and options onto the table. And pricing for that tool is based on your specific requirements. And that concludes our overview of the two new products, the HS Validator and CI Manager Standard or Quick Start. Again, we will forward you a recording of this session and copy of the slides, as well as any questions and answers that came up during this webinar. That may take us a couple days to consolidate and distribute. If you have any specific questions or would like somebody to contact you, please email us or contact us, and we would be happy to schedule a time to talk and go through this specifically with you. And we want to thank you today for your time and wish you a wonderful afternoon and evening.